Welcome to this new session of ChatGPT Tax, and today we are welcoming Steve to discuss about carried interest. But first and foremost, thanks for being here. You were the previous co-chair of the Young Tax Leaders for the LPEA, and now we are trying to have our feet in your shoes, so we are welcoming you today with pleasure. Can you tell us more about you, and then tell us whatever you think is relevant from a carried interest perspective, being part of this new LPEA communication that we have all recently seen on the medias.
Thank you, Boris. Thank you, Vincent. So my name is Steve Idrissou. I'm a tax principal at ATOZ Luxembourg. We are the representative of the tax network in Luxembourg. My practice focuses mainly on advising and providing tax advice to alternative investment, let's say operators in the broad scale, and high net worth individuals and multinational corporations. Well, when it comes to how we can attract Luxembourg talents in the country, I think that the point is that there are many legal regimes that are effective. But the ones that will be relevant for the Luxembourg alternative investment fund industry are two, basically. As you said, Boris, first, the carried interest regime, and the second one, I would say that the impatriate regime.
And Steve, first of all, you're the first guest with a tie that we welcome here. Can you basically describe the carried interest regime or carried interest structuring here in Luxembourg, bearing in mind that this is a topic that is evolving in many jurisdictions, including obviously here in Luxembourg?
Yeah, thank you for the joke on the tie, and I try to be, I will say, harmonized with your sofa. So I choose a green tie with the green sofa. Well, a lot to say about carried interest regime. I think that the first thing is that it's not a new regime. This is the modernization of a regime that was already existing back in 2013. The point was that, as you know, Luxembourg, the strength of Luxembourg is to make sure that the toolbox is evolving with the way that the operators are using it. And it appears that the old regime that was put in place were not anymore, I will say, up to date with the needs of the current operators. And the purpose of the current carried interest regime were still to focus on, I will say, the operators evolving in the alternative investment fund industry, but to be larger in terms of who can benefit from it.
Because the old regime was not very much used in practice. So it was a regime that was not very, I would not say unpopular, but it was not matching the expectation, I guess.
I'm sorry, but I mean, one point is, like, what would make exactly the difference between the previous regime and, as a snapshot, what would be the key elements you think are relevant for everyone to know that makes the difference now?
Yes. The clarity of how we apply the tax treatment, for instance. One of the key points that was, I will say, at stake in the old regime that it was the good, I will say, features were kind of temporary, notably because you had the first regime that gave you first a full taxation at a rate of roughly 45%. And when you were meeting some conditions to be eligible as an impatriate, then you were eligible to, let's say, a 10% gross rate, 10% marginal tax rate. And this regime was temporary. It means that it ended at maximum on 2028, meaning that even newcomers, new impatriate, could not benefit from this regime. And I don't know, Vincent, you know also this regime, how often you recommended that regime?
It was basically, I think we will have a bit more, or at least hopefully, more use with the new regime. Basically, that is more flexible, that targets a lot more people as well. So I think the industry really wants to have a powerful tool to attract talents here in Luxembourg, especially obviously for the fund managers.
Attracts and retain, right? Because that must be a long-term incentive as well to make the people stay, develop, and also recruit some more people.
And obviously one of the key questions that comes when you talk about carried interest is obviously being able to attract people here to Luxembourg. Obviously this is not a tax topic, but I think the goal is obviously to bring as many people or as many talents as we need here to the country to be able to further develop and strengthen our fund industry. And I think that the new regime could be very useful for that.
Yes. You were asking me what are the key elements that I retain from this new regime. I have said, first there is the certainty of the tax features. And that goes with that the fact that this new regime is now permanent. I will say in terms of a positive element. Then there is a thing that is very also important. It's broaden the scope, meaning that it's not only front officer that can benefit from it. And we know we've been working, you Boris, you Vincent, we've been working in the industry for quite a few years now. And we know that not only front officer were located in Luxembourg, but not what we can do. We can say to our client, to our friends that are working in fund industry, for fund that they can benefit also for it, as long as they, of course, match certain conditions. Yeah.
And obviously the type of instrument that can benefit from it has also evolved.
Yes.
So maybe you want to say a few words on this.
Yes. I think that there is something that is important. Is that when, and we were discussing about that before, just before the interview started. The carried interest, the way that you invest in a carried interest, or the way that you can benefit from a carried interest will also evolve with your life cycle. Meaning that when you are a young employee, you may not have the cash at hand to fund a carried investment. Then what the new regime says, it says, well, if you don't fund the investment, you don't co-invest together with the carried entitlement, but you can still get what we called an agreement, a contractual carried. And that you will still, if you get some proceeds at the end when the fund will be successful, of course, you will get some proceeds and you will enjoy a very much favorable tax rates at the end. And that is something that is very important. And then when you are more a front officer with maybe more ages, more experience, then you have also the money in cash to invest, to co-invest, then you will also be able to enjoy a much more favorable
an exemption.
An exemption, as you said, Vincent, an exemption, simply.
Absolutely. Maybe one thing that we see is that a lot of people are investing through personal holding companies, right? Whether transparent or opaque, or it could be also as an individual. Can you maybe explain a bit more if that regime is meant to apply to individuals, companies, and if so, which type?
Yeah, so that is a good question. As we discussed that before, carried interest regime is something that evolves with the time and evolves with the type of funds, strategy of the fund, the country of origination of the management team. And therefore, you will have certain variation in terms of structuring, but you will still have, I will say, milestones.
And do you think, you mentioned it correctly before, a lot of carried structures do not always come to Luxembourg. They're not in Luxembourg. Do you think that this regime could change it, basically attract more people or structure more carried interest through Luxembourg?
I will be honest. I will be honest with you. We already see some people coming.
Yep.
We already see, and not only because of the carried. It's also because Luxembourg is in the economic environment that we're living now. I don't want to step outside the context of our interview, but we are living in a world that is changing. And in Luxembourg, it's true that to say we are in a bubble.
That's true.
We are in a bubble. We are in an environment where it's good to live simply. And then when you add on top of that the predictability of the tax rules, the certainty of their applications, and you grant, I will say, good tax incentives, then it's normal that you have people coming here. And front officer, I will say more experienced middle officer, certainly more experienced middle officer. This is, from what I see, the trend. But yes, that is, for me, that can be a game changer in our industry.
So if I try to recap what you've just said, you would say it can go from middle officer to top management. It can cover both phantom and actual stake in the game in the carry plan. It can be either through a Luxembourg vehicle, carry vehicle, or a foreign carry vehicle. Is that correctly understood? Is it how you see it coming?
Yeah, the only point is that, and I think that was made clear at least in the draft law, because now we are in the draft law position. The only I will say carve-out is that we should avoid abusive situation. And that is something very important. And we, as tax advisors, we, as practitioners of the alternative investment fund industry, certainly do not want to have, I will say, abusive situation, because then we'll basically destroy our tool. And I think that, again, and we are there with Vincent and with you, Boris, the practice will evolve, the imagination, our imagination will evolve. It will not evolve just per se, it will evolve because we will at some point receive a client that will have maybe a different strategy, a different type of people to incentive, and we'll tell him, well, let's open our tax book and let's see what we can do. And yes.
And there's also another regime that we should mention as well. You mentioned it before. It's the impatriate regime. It's also a very powerful tool to relocate talent to Luxembourg. Can you say a few words on this regime as well?
Certainly. That's making a very good bridge with the carried interest. Can you imagine you as a Londoner, let's say, member of a management team? Then you've never been a resident in Luxembourg. In 2026, you come in Luxembourg, you take your residence in Luxembourg, and you ask, so your tax advisors or some of other friends, and you say, well, what can I benefit from in terms of tax saving here? And we will tell him, well, you can benefit from the impatriate regime, as long as you have a certain salary, but I don't make myself a debt for them. You can also benefit from the carried interest regime, especially if you have a long-term co-invest investment together coupled with the carried interest scheme. And what will be the result? You will get a 50% exemption on the impatriate regime up to an amount of salary of 400,000 euro per year, straight, over 8-9 years period, it's over 800K of a tax saving. That's a lot. And this is just on your remuneration, like your work or salary, so to say. And then you will add, on top of that, the carried interest.
The carried interest for the exits.
I mean, that's something that is good.
Absolutely. I think it's call it tax savings on the carry is very important in the sense that carry investors have to reinvest, right? It's not just a one-off. I mean, there's something that is potentially forgotten, but there is a commitment to commit again and to have skin in the games for the carry holders, as to your point earlier, to match the interest of the investors and the carry holders. So from that perspective, if you get a leak every time of 50%, that kind of reduce your capacity to actually commit more and have more skin in the games over time. So it's as it's reinvested, like the true benefits come at the end of your life rather than now. Also depending on how the carry is set up, whether you're a whole fund carry or a deal by deal carry. But we always see the trend, at least in Europe, it's obvious, to go to a whole fund carry, which postpones the moment where you effectively get anything in the pocket. So all that together, I think, we talk about tax savings, but it's just being rational about what carry is and how this is being implemented through the lifespan of the fund and the carry holders themselves.
Yeah. You said it all. Tax is really a consequence of an event, of a contract, of an agreement, of a commercial agreement. And then, of course, there is some a decision to be taken at the upper level, but you say it all. It's not about only taxes. It's also about having the right context, environment, legal, regulatory, commercial, and when it comes again to taxes, I think that what the main element that makes a difference between Luxembourg and some other countries is when we decide to treat the carried interest as an investment rather than as a salary or an income from our work. And that is a main distinction for those who are a bit knowledgeable about tax. It's all the story of the tax and the carried in other countries.
Thank you very much, Steve. In a changing landscape concerning carried interest, Luxembourg has chosen the way of enthusiasm. Thank you very much for being here with us today, and for all those of you watching, stay tuned.